Okay, and some help hints will be given to you in written way through Snap Homework app. So don't be worried. Just now I'm going to discuss the question answer also. Okay. First you should learn. We were discussing about the sources of information of modern age. Many points or many facts were discussed properly, in which we have discussed British documents, books, letter writings and speeches, newspapers. 2-3 points are left. These are administrative reports of the government, internet or database, and old buildings and artifacts and the people. Before discussing all these things, I would like to say you about an act that was passed in 1878 to repress the anti-government writings. As you know, many papers were published in which Indians expressed their views, exchanged their ideas from each other. It helped them to stand up against the British. It is why the British dislike the press. So in 1878, the British passed an act that was called Vernacular Press Act, according to which he banned the anti-government writings and propaganda. So people of India became anti-British. They opposed the British. British passed this act to stop the anti-government writings or the writings which were against the interest of the British government, because these papers worried the British government. And other papers were also, newspapers were also there. Those were Som Prakash, Sulabh Samachar, Halishahar Patrika, Amrita Bajar Patrika, Bharat Mihir, Dhaka Prakash, Sadarani Bharat Sanskarak. So all these were the magazines which worried British. You should be ready to answer the question if it is asked to you in examination or anywhere. Name the 2 papers, newspapers, except the London Times and Bombay Times, which worried the British government. You can write any name. You can say about any other newspaper like Som Prakash, Sulabh Samachar, Halisahar Patrika, Amrit Bajar Patrika, etc. So now, administrative reports of the government that were published in those days, these are also the important source of modern period, because all these reports were written by the government and their officers during the modern period. These administrative reports of the government is related with tribes, castes, land revenue settlements, and all these are the main sources of information. They tell us about the existing caste system in society in those periods, what type of land revenue settlements were there in those days. Regarding this matter, we get the information because we have the report, we have the evidences, we have the proofs. The basic objective behind the survey and reports of the British government was to learn about India before it could be administered effectively. For example, report on the survey and settlement operations in the district of Champaran in 1913 to 1919. Actually, the survey was published. So we get the sufficient information about this period of our modern India. Next source of information is internet or database. Many kinds of report informations is compiled, is written in our computer disk. This internet and database also gives the sufficient information. There is a library. Now there is the net problem. Listen it carefully. अभी तो सुनता नहीं हूँ. Internet or database like digital. क्या हो गया? कर दिया क्या? म्यूट भी कर देते हैं, उससे भी होता है क्या? अच्छा. सबको पूछ रहे हैं. Hello. Hello, are you listening me? That was the net problem. It started reconnecting. That is when we get this disturbance. Okay. Now listen. In this way, database or internet is also one of the important source of information. There is the Digital South Asian Library and the British Library's Oriental and Indian Office Collection. All these three give us a lot of information that is based on internet. So this is also one of the important source of information. As you know, a digital library, what is the meaning of digital library? A digital library is a collection of documents in a organized electronic form available on the internet or CD-ROM. CD-ROM in a coded form. Next is Wikipedia. Nowadays also many of you get sufficient information by the help of Wikipedia. What is Wikipedia? Actually, it is a free online encyclopedia. It is the largest and the most popular reference work on internet. Right? Its content is informative as well as verifiable. I mean, we can verify any things, any information by the help of Wikipedia. So these are the sources of information. Apart from it, old buildings, artifacts, and people of that period also are the important source, because in those days different types of buildings were built, different objects were made by the man or person, that is called artifacts, and people of the period also tell us the tale of the past, I mean story of the past. Many people, I mean freedom fighters who contributed too much to our national movement, their activities, their deeds, their life story also gives a lot of information to us. These are helpful. They had seen many changes. They observed all these things. They wrote many things about the changes. These also gives us sufficient information, their experience also. So many buildings like Victoria Terminus in Mumbai, Gateway of India, Victoria Memorial, Rashtrapati Bhavan. Now, all these are the old buildings which teach us about the about the modern period. Now, you see in do you know box, some words are given. Now, some words are given. Actually, nothing is written about. Please don't share Nikita Kumarage. Don't share your screen. Okay. Some words are given here about which you have not written any lines in your book. But these are very, very important incidents or events of the world which mark the beginning of modern age. Right? These are the changes that took place in the world originated in Europe, which are the Renaissance, Reformation, Industrial Revolution, French Revolution, Russian Revolution, nationalism, imperialism. These are the terms. In short, I am describing here. Right? First is, I wanted to explain all these terms in starting period. But first of all, we had to do the work easier, to make your work very easier. That is why I left it for the discussion at last. Now we are studying about the modern age. What were the reasons behind the starting or beginning of modern age? What events happened in the world which marked the end of medieval period and started the modern age? Listen carefully. Actually, earlier, in the medieval period, there was no importance of human being. It was said people are made for the king, or they should experience, or they should live as they are allowed to live. They should not raise any question to the kings, against the priests, or any other rulers. Human being was not mentioned here. One student is writing just now which chapter you are teaching. I am teaching you the first chapter of history, modern period, and the last paragraph you see, last page, right? Last page. Europe, Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth. Actually what happened, rebirth किसका है? Rebirth of Greco-Roman culture. Greek-Roman culture was very advanced in ancient age. It was very logical. People were given importance. It laid stress on science. But in medieval period, what happened? All these things vanished. There was no importance of science. There was no importance of human being. But in 14th and 15th century, an event took place that was called Renaissance or rebirth, which again revived the old learnings. It laid stress on the importance of human being and the logic, reason. Scientific development began to take place. People began to raise the question about any existing system. Earlier, the king used to say, I am the representative of God and you have to live as per my instruction. And in those days, people did not dare to ask the question because they used to afraid with God. How they would raise the question against God because the king was the representative of God. But logical attitude began to develop and people began to raise the question. Right? Raise the question. That is why scientific development started there. You know, this was the period when Newton has propagated his theory about the gravitational force. Now, because when he saw the apple fell on the earth, he began to raise the question, why it happened so? Why did not the apple go into the air? He began to raise the question. Do you know one of the basic feature of modern age is what? Scientific development, scientific spirit. So it was brought by Renaissance. And you know, here what is said nowadays in modern age? Everything is made for the people. People can do what they want. This type of attitude was started in course of Renaissance. Other was Reformation, change. In those earlier, in medieval period, the religion was very complicated. So a movement started against the Catholic religion. In Christianity, a religion, reform movement started against the drawbacks, blind faith of the religion, and it made the religion very simple. Nowadays we see religions are in very simple form. We are against the social and religious drawbacks, evils, blind faith. No, we dislike to obey it. It was started by Reformation. Next we see Industrial Revolution. Goods were produced on large scale by the help of machine. Earlier there was no machine. French Revolution took place in 1789. What was its importance? Earlier, what you have seen, what you know about the early form of our government? In the medieval period, the ruler used to rule the country. King was, the dynastic rule was there. There was dynasty. King's family used to rule. People had no right to rule. People had no right to elect himself or herself as a ruler. So French Revolution took place in 1789, where Louis XVI was the ruler. He was very autocratic, very cruel. He did not allow the people to have any kind of right, while people wanted to have the right. It is why they fought against the ruler, and rule of people started. In modern age, what we see? Democratic form of government is there. There is no kingship. It was started from French. It happened also in Russian Revolution in Russia. And nationalism, a sense of oneness on national scale developed. In medieval period, it was not there because there were so many small states. The people of one state, smaller area, had no any connectivity or feeling of oneness with others. But in modern age, what happened? Nationalism started. What do you mean by nationalism? A feeling of oneness. And imperialism. Imperialism means, I have already discussed also, again I am telling you, imperialism is a practice in which a stronger country controls the weaker country. So all these things happened and it started the modern age in India. Okay. Next is, here you see question answer. Keywords you will learn if you have any meaning is written here. Now you see question answer. You see I am asking you some questions. Modern period of Indian history began in the 18th century. If you have book, you mark it. The call, you give me blood, I will give you freedom, was given by whom? Yes, Subhash Chandra Bose. Next, in which language was the newspaper Kesari published? Marathi. Okay, Gaurav is asking me or is giving me information that he had no book. I have already said you you have to download from your school website. Ebook is available here. You should do it on the first day. I have already said. So now, in which language was the newspaper Kesari published? Marathi. Question number 4. Which one of the following was a major factor in strengthening the national movement in India? Right? The discontentment among the masses against the colonial power. Right? Next is the book Unhappy Indian was written by whom? Lala Lajpat Rai. So these are the answers. Now you see other question. Land revenue settlements are an important source of information. Right? Collection of Gandhiji's writing has been preserved and displayed at Gandhi Smriti. Next question. The Indian National Congress was established in, yes, correct answer, 1885. The revolt of 1857 was ruthlessly suppressed by colonial power or British or colonial power. Right? Colonial power. Dash. Next. The dash reforms were introduced in 1909. Morley Minto reforms. Morley Minto reforms. Now next is match the following. Okay. Amrita Bazar Patrika, Bengali. My experiment with truth, Mahatma Gandhi. Simon Commission Report, 1929. Freedom is our birthright, Mahatma Gandhi. ये कौन लिख दिया? महात्मा गांधी. Freedom is our birthright, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, not Mahatma Gandhi. Okay? क्या उसको नहीं पढ़ाएंगे? Okay, so in this way you see the long question I have already discussed. You try your best to write. I will help you by giving hints, by mentioning the paragraph number. Okay, first you try to write. Next day I will say you to show the answer. Okay, now let me to 140. Okay, नहीं मीटिंग नहीं, देखो इसको अनम्यूट करो, अनम्यूट करो. 99 है. Okay, if you have any problem